is not, and that's frustrating. But I did go to the gym yesterday, and I feel good today, so that's good news.
All right.
I'm totally by myself. I don't know. I don't know what to do or where to go or.
That's our son, Stephen. You see Stephen on TV? Stephen just waved at you.
Now what?
The man on TV is our son, Stephen.
I don't mean to do that. No, and that's frustrating. But I did go to the gym yesterday. All right, let's get rid of that. Also need to change the view. Otherwise, everybody's going to just be seeing me the whole time, and I don't like that.
Would you like another cup of coffee?
All right.
Would you like another cup of coffee?
Well, I'd love it. Yeah.
Okay. My Bible study starts with you.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Diane.
Yeah, Susan and I
Morning.
were talking, so I muted myself so y'all wouldn't have to listen to us talk.
You were talking about us then.
Yeah.
I wasn't talking. I did tell her who I could see up here right before I laid the phone down.
Yeah.
Was that
Yeah.
Must have been.
That should work. All right. Thank y'all for excusing me from last week's Bible study. It would have been an interesting one, I can assure you.
I like it. Interesting.
Yeah, you'd probably see me sleeping is really what it boils down to, Steve. I'm not sure that painkillers take away the pain. They just make you not care and sleep through it is
That's
really
right.
what it.
That's what they do.
Yeah. And in that they were effective. And I just realized something. I haven't taken any today. And so hang on.
If I'm
Yeah, I remember when I had my hysterectomy way back in the day. I would, when I was still in the hospital, so I would be talking to somebody and I would fall asleep right in the middle of the conversation because of all the meds I was taking, and I would wake up and be somebody different in the room, and fall asleep again and wake up and there'd be somebody else in there that I never knew was there. So it's sort of funny how you just fall asleep in the middle of conversations when you're
And I can't tell you how many hospital visits I've made when people have gone to sleep
oh yeah.
while I've been talking to them. And you know, it's funny, family members will be like, they'll try to wake them up and I'll be like, it's fine. First of all, they're not here to see me, they're here to get better. And secondly, I'm a pastor, I'm used to people falling asleep to me while I'm talking to them. It's just an occupational hazard that we have. So let's go ahead and pray, and we'll get started. Holy and most gracious God, as we prepare for the return of your Son, prepare our hearts, our minds, and our voices as we study more about your word and your teaching to us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right. This will probably be a short Bible study, simply because there's only 18 verses in chapter 9, which is, you know, in thinking about it, I'm pretty sure it's the shortest of all chapters that I have taught. It's not the shortest chapter in the Bible. That I want to say is Psalm 119. Hold on. I don't want to lie to you.
Psalm 117.
Is it 117? I knew 118 is the longest.
Yeah,
And so I knew it's either
119 is the
before or
longest.
after. So it's the one before it. Thank you, Hugh. I can always count on you
Two
for,
verses, I think.
Yeah, it's really short, and then it's like then you have 18 that's forever long, or 118. But this one only has 18 verses, and if you remember from the first time when we started talking about Proverbs, we said that the book of Proverbs is divided into two sections. The first is called the speeches, and then the second is called basically the Proverbs. And so chapter 9 is the end of the speeches. And what do you think the purpose of the speeches have been?
To share wisdom, maybe?
Some, yes. I mean, some wisdom has been shared. Mom, you're muted.
To tell the students what they're going to hear, sort of a pre-summary so that they'll know what they're going to learn.
Yeah, there's part of that too, but there's one major theme of all of them. And that is to acquire wisdom. That you want wisdom. You know, it's sort of a long introduction to say, hey, you want to strive for wisdom. I mean, and yes, Diane, there were teachings along the way, you know, about, hey, don't mess with loose women and things like that. But all of those things pull you away from wisdom, and pull you towards foolishness. And so moving forward, I believe, although this is my first real study of the book of Proverbs too, it'll be much more short, pithy sayings that we know and love about Proverbs. And so, you know, I will be interested to see if there's any rhyme or reason as to the order of these Proverbs, or they're just like, but you know, that's for us to learn moving forward.
Like an ADD author was making
Exactly.
writing the chapter.
Well, if an ADD author did it, then I will be able to follow the logic. That's the good news. If there is any logic to be found, and if that's the reason, I can find that logic. If there is no logic to be found, or if it's actually some deep logic of a linear thinker, then no, I won't find it. I'll have to read about it and tell y'all. So what chapter 9 is sort of a summary. It's not a summary as the conclusion of the previous 8 chapters. And so, and it's done in such a way that it's kind of, well, you'll see. So let's dive right in.
That is just crazy.
We're going to start with verses 1 to 6. Wisdom has built her house. She has hewn her 7 pillars. She has slaughtered her animals. She has mixed her wine. She has also set her table. She has sent out her servant girls. She calls from the highest places in town. You that are simple, turn in here. To those without sense, she says, come, eat of my bread and drink of my wine I have mixed. Lay aside immaturity and live, and walk in the way of insight. So read through that quickly, and then we will discuss it. Okay, so as you hear that, as you read that, what's going on here? What's being described?
That wisdom has established a great place to be, and that's where you want to visit.
Yeah, but not what does it mean so much, but what's being described.
A meal, a gathering.
Yeah, party, right? And so wisdom is doing what?
Throwing a party.
Throwing a party, and so sends out her girls to invite people to come. And it's interesting, who's invited?
The simple.
The simple, which that's kind of interesting. It's I guess what it is, the wise don't need to come to a wisdom party. They're
Right.
already wise, or they're already there, I guess. But to the simple, come on. You know, it's not something that is exclusive. You know, wisdom isn't just for certain people, because otherwise wouldn't be calling out to the simple, to the people that others would think are not wise. And those are the exact people that need to be asked, right?
That's right.
Now, there is another layer to this that's not exactly obvious. Where is the party taking place, do you think?
I like at her house.
Well, that would be the first thought. That it's a house party. However,
you call from the highest point in the city. I don't know if that's where it was going to be or not.
well, and also though, that's where you would go if you wanted to make an announcement, though, right? But I think it is possible that it's referring to the temples based on the 7 pillars. And so that connects wisdom with worship. In this idea is that that party is, well, worship in some ways. And if you think about it, there's 2 aspects to this meal, right? What does it say?
Wine and bread.
Wine and bread. Now, granted, this is way before communion ever happened. But I think that for us, it can point to the Eucharistic meal. Mom, you were going to say something?
Had the Passover happened by now?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the Passover was
Okay.
in Exodus, hence the name.
Yeah.
And so that,
But-
yeah.
When Jesus was celebrating the Passover meal, that's when they had wine and bread. So I wonder if this refers to the Passover meal
It could.
as well to us for communion.
It could, but the Passover meal didn't happen at church or the temple. The Passover meal happened in the homes, as it still does. You know, because the Passover happened in homes, and so and again, this was in the commentary, and it was the if this, then this. So if this refers to the temple, then it could also talk about worship. And as we're going to hear in verse 10, it might point in that direction a little more. But wisdom and relationship with God are intertwined. We do know that. We've heard that before, right? And so that's something that just to keep in mind, and I think that it still holds true today. Hopefully we come here for wisdom. You know, if if the teachers are wise and they're rightly teaching the students, and if the students are actually listening to what the teacher's saying, if the teacher is wise. So let's move on, unless there's any more thoughts or questions about that. Oh, wait, there is one highlight here. And we'll pick it up later, but look in verse 6, lay aside immaturity and what?
Live.
And live. So it's a matter of living, right? Lay aside immaturity and live. Just keep that in mind. All right. So moving to the next spot, verses 7 to 9. Whoever corrects a scoffer wins abuse. Whoever rebukes the wicked gets hurt. A scoffer who is rebuked will only hate you. The wise, when rebuked, will love you. Give instruction to the wise, and they will become wiser still. Teach the righteous, and they will gain in learning. So let's read through that again, and we shall discuss it.
I can't tell which is a real person sitting here.
I'm real, just so you know. You shared your wisdom with me for about 18 years when I lived in your house. So, all right. So let's for you teachers in the room, and there's 2 of you today. And actually, 2 1/4. We'll give you a little credit for his years of teaching. Or is student teaching? Did you actually teach you, or did you just do student teaching?
Student teaching.
Okay, we'll give you credit. We'll give you credit for that. So what do you teachers hear in this? And remember, Mom, you're muted.
Well, if your students are wise, then they will become wiser for having been taught.
And the kids that could care less, that you tried to teach them.
Yeah. So does this ring true?
Yes.
I will say that in my career, my 21 years of being a pastor, which includes teaching and preaching, I have seen this more true in the last 1.5 years since this pandemic began than ever before, where people have rejected the teaching, just flat out rejected it. It's because everything has become so political. And I mean, anything that's contrary to what your political beliefs are wrong. No matter whether it's medical, whether it's educational, we don't listen to experts anymore. We listen to the people on Facebook. And if those people disagree with us, no matter what they're discussing, no.
Yeah.
But it's rejected.
Yeah. Trust has been eroded badly during the last 2 years.
Oh yeah. Without a doubt, we don't trust things. And so, so very much so, whoever corrects a scoffer wins abuse, and whoever rebukes the wicked gets hurt. people don't want to hear. People don't want to hear love your neighbor right now. People don't want to hear accept everybody. And that's on both sides of the table. You know, I was talking to somebody yesterday and, you know, about the phrase all means all. When we hear that phrase, who do we typically think it's referring to?
Everybody.
Well, but really more specifically, who do we think when we hear the phrase? It is everybody. Yeah. But usually there's people in mind when we throw those phrases out.
Usually that phrase would refer to someone whom in the past has not been included in some way.
Right. In the church, that's often the LGBTQIARSTUV community. Maybe minorities, Hispanics, African Americans, Native Americans, people like that. But it also would include people who are on the conservative side of things. Because if all means all, it also includes the people that don't agree with you.
Right.
It also includes the people who struggle to accept all other people. It includes sinners. And so it's things nobody wants to hear the truth. We want to hear what we agree with. And so scoffers, and in this, I think that is not what wisdom teaches. That is not wise. And so scoffers, if you try to correct a scoffer, you win abuse. And if whoever rebukes the wicked gets hurt. I mean, look, the kid out there in Wisconsin that they tried to correct him and they got hurt, killed. I mean, I don't think I would have tried to correct somebody with an AR-15. I'm just saying, I think that was quite foolish. That whole situation was the realm of stupidity in America right there. Sums it up. Everybody involved was an idiot. Everybody.
Yep.
When the parents wouldn't take the child home, when the guidance counselor says, you know, he needs to be.
Oh, no, you're talking about the school shooting. I was talking about the Kyle Rittenhouse thing. But yeah, that too. No, I mean, there were some wise people in that situation. The school officials were wise. I mean, they actually did everything right for a change. You know, and in the past with school shootings, you'll have where the school officials have completely ignored things or no, he'll be fine. Here, the school did everything right.
You're right.
But no, the Kyle Rittenhouse, where a 17-year-old thought it was a great idea to go out with a gun into a protest. Okay, first of all, 17 gun, not a great thing. 17 protests, even worse thing. You know, but to be fair, he's a 17-year-old boy, and I was one of those. Wisdom is not synonymous with 17-year-old boys, just not. But again, the adults who decided to attack the armed 17-year-old, also not the wisest of all people.
Well, you can't use reason with people who are not being reasonable.
No.
I mean, it just doesn't work. When you try to reason with someone, it's effective if the person you're talking to is wanting to reason with you, but with with someone who is totally out of control and not reasoning, they're not going to even listen to what you're saying.
Well, and look, and to your point, Diane, it says, give instruction to the wise and they will become wiser still, teach the righteous and they will gain in learning. Because a wise person,
right?
If you're saying something to a wise person that they don't agree with, they will listen to you hoping to get some insight.
Right.
They still may walk away and disagree,
Right.
but if they stop and listen and try to understand where you're coming from and try to grow in that, and that's what so much of the world is missing right now, is that we have stopped trying to grow.
Mhm.
We have drawn our line and say, this is what we believe, and that's it. And that's dangerous, not only in politics and in society, it's also dangerous in religion and faith. When what people learned in Sunday school as children and in confirmation, and then they're done learning for the rest of their lives, and they will argue with people about what their faith teaches. I was coaching a guy the other day who told me that one of his church members came up to him because apparently the congregation is considering requiring vaccinations for all volunteers, which that's a little far. And we would not do, but different part of the country, just all together. Anyway, and but the church member went up to the pastor and said, "What if I reject for religious reasons?" What do you say? I mean, like, there are all kinds of reasons to reject it and to not take it. Okay, that's fine. However, as Christians, religion ain't one of them. And you can't tell your pastor who's saying this is what the requirement is, that you, who are part of that church, reject it on religious reasons.
But that's where you listen to find out why he thinks he wants to reject, what religious reasons he wants to use in your church.
Oh yeah, that's an excellent point. Listen to what those reasons are, because I've talked to a lot of people, that some of whom have decided not to be vaccinated, and some folks, well, the anti-vaxxers are just wrong. But if you sit and listen to them, many of them have very valid reasons. I talked to a woman who's not going to get a booster because the vaccine has affected her ability to move her hands for some strange reason.
Sylvia.
Yeah, she shouldn't.
Absolutely.
And I mean, that's a freak thing that no one else has dealt with. You haven't heard about that side effect. I just took my picture. But she shouldn't.
No.
I mean, and so there are valid reasons out there, but as Christians, our faith is not one of them. I mean, it's
nothing to do with.
Yeah, you're right, Margaret. It doesn't. And so, it fired me up 2 weeks ago. I'm reading one of our local representatives is writing to Lexington County, Lexington Hospital, because they're going to require vaccines, which for most of those people working there, they were already required a ton of shots before they started. I mean, it's like, and he kept referring to religious exemptions. The only major religious exemption that rejects vaccines, and it can't just be one vaccine, it's got to be all of them, is Christian Scientists and Scientologists.
Yeah, just.
And well, there's not a ton of rich actors here in Lexington, South Carolina, to be Scientologists.
Nope.
And Christian Scientists are less than 1% of South Carolina's population. They're like less than 0.5%. There's 12 churches in the state, and I'm guessing they're not very big. And so I was talking to somebody that said, Christian? scientist? I mean, yeah. But anyway, but yeah, nowadays giving instruction to scoffers, don't waste your breath. It's kind of what I'm saying. Yes, ma'am.
Our Sunday school class, and this was an adult Sunday school class, was talking about Jonah. And we were talking about the fact that very probably that was, is it an allegory or a,
Yeah, I mean, it's like a fable. It's not a historical fact.
Yeah. And we were talking about it. And this one lady got so angry because she said, that's what I learned in Sunday school, and that's what it'll always be.
Yeah. And the truth is, I'm pretty sure I know that story and the people that you're talking about, because it's not your current Sunday school class.
No, it's not. And their son was one of your best friends.
Yeah. And the truth is, what we learn as children is the foundation of our faith. Lots of times, people who grew up Baptist, you can't take the Baptist out of them, and that's fine because they got Lutheran sitting in Baptist churches too, that are talking about justification by grace through faith and going home and cracking a beer. And so, I mean, it goes both ways, but what we're raised as sticks with us a lot. But also, though, when y'all were younger, the way that the Bible was read and understood was different than you're taught now.
Yep.
But, it wasn't until like the 60s or 70s that we really started digging into the who wrote it, when it was written, why it was written, what the genre of it is. It was more just based on what the words are and what those words mean. And so I remember in seminary, our first semester, we had a couple classes that were basically there to flush that thinking out of us, to look at the Bible differently. And really, it wasn't until probably the generation or one or two before mine of pastors that were going into congregations and teaching that way, looking at the history and stuff like that. And so, yeah, Jonah happened, he was living in the belly of a whale, and then, a plant grew to give him shade. And then that was just the end. I mean, there's nothing like that fanciful. And I mean, I'm sure she would have said the same thing about the book of Job, where the devil and God are having basically a game of poker in heaven about, hey, placing bets on Job. Do we really think God's like that? And do we really think that, he's up there dealing his people with the devil? No. The purpose of that book is to say what happened, why bad things happen to good people. And so, yeah, but people just, that's what I do. And learning new things sometimes is threatening for people. Just ask anybody who thinks that Common Core is the root of all evil. We were talking about that at dinner last night, and I don't know what Common Core is. When my kids were in elementary school, I was not the one assigned to help them with their homework. That was when they got older. Now I'm stuck with looking over every single paper, even college papers. So, I guess there's a trade-off. She got the first 5 years and I get the rest. Okay. So I don't know this Common Core, this new math. All it is strategies about how to do things differently. According to my wife, who's been teaching it for a very long time. And she's like, I wish that they had taught us this way. It's not like 2 plus 2 doesn't still equal 4. It's just looking at a different way to go about doing it, that basically you can do math in your head easily. She goes, they should have been teaching it this way all along. It's so simple. And so, but we got people voting against our kids learning a simple way because that's not the way we learned it. Really? I mean, I don't care that much about how my kids are taught, just so long as they are. I mean, it's sort of like saying there's only one way to tie your shoes. You either have it the bunny ears or it's wrong. I mean, come on. So I think being wise also means opening yourself up to learning new things, to having an open mind to things. I mean, Margaret, you may be the absolute first altar guild I've ever worked with, or one of the very few, that if I say, no, let's try it this way, you'll be like, okay. Most of them are like, no, Jesus said that in the scrolls of time that everything has to be right here and done this way.
Well, I do have a book, you know, and you do go against my book sometimes, but who am I?
Well,
if you want it like that, you're the pastor.
Yeah, well, and I can tell you this, one of the things that we have a book called the Manual on the Liturgy. It's a brown book, and it's on the green book, and it's a really good book. It has a lot of things, but my worship professor, who was a by the book kind of guy, said that's a guide, period.
Right.
It is not the be all end all, because when it comes to leading worship, it's contextual, and no book has all the right answers except for the context of where you are. And so you get that, and I appreciate that. But the willingness to change and to bend, I think wisdom is there. That's very wise. Well, let's move on, because we only have 20 minutes in these 18 verses. That's going to get us out short. This is the key to it all. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is insight. For by me your days will be multiplied, and your years will be added to your life. If you are wise for yourself. If you scoff, you alone will bear it. All right, read through that. Okay, first of all, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Have you heard that before?
Yes.
Where have you heard that before?
All my life.
All your life, but in particular, we heard it in chapter 1. I think it was chapter. Yes, in Proverbs. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And so, in the beginning of this speech, or the speeches, and at the end, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. That's where it starts. You know, that's what it. By the way, do you like the picture? I took this picture in my backyard. And well, I tell you on my phone, and that the jet line that's coming through is actually clearer in the picture than it was in the sky. It was really faint, and it actually looked like it was coming out of a star. So I took the picture, but I still like the picture. But anyway, the fear of the Lord is the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Yes, and that's something for us to remember. You know, maybe just maybe, if we would start with the knowledge of God than the knowledge of Facebook, we would do a lot better. Just saying. you know, what does God, what do we know of God? Now that doesn't mean, you know, that the Bible teaches us every single thing about every situation. That's where, you know, that's where I remember when the ELCA was being formed, in its infinite wisdom, we decided to tackle all the difficult social situations in the world. So they started with the death penalty and abortion because those were not hot button issues. But the real challenge with the abortion discussion was that there's really nothing in the Bible directly that addresses it. And so, I mean, yes, you can look at other passages, and yes, you know, there's a lot there, but there's nothing that directly addresses it. And so that was challenging for a lot of people. Well, for everybody, that's what made it hard. And so, you know, there's not everything is there, but the fear of the Lord, the basic understanding of God, which is what? Love. That's the beginning of knowledge, is love. And, you know, I think if we start there, we're not going to go wrong. We ain't gonna get everything right, but we're not going to go wrong. And so, by me, your days will be multiplied and years will be added to your life. Now, the 11 and 12, it's weird. For by me, your days will be multiplied and years will be added to your life. That the pronoun in there confuses me. And it kind of confused the commentators too. I think it sounds like it's from God.
Mm-hmm.
It could also be from the teacher, but it can also be to the teacher. So I don't know. I think I'm going to stick with, but based on the verse preceding it, I'm going to go with, this is the one time that it's speaking on behalf of God, and we just left out the quotation marks because it makes sense to me that way.
Okay, Stephen. Then if I fear the Lord and I die of cancer, my days haven't been multiplied.
Sure they have.
But even if it's wisdom, if I'm following wisdom, I mean, that's almost sounds like prosperity gospel there.
Well, and we talked about this. There is some truth. This is not prosperity gospel. It's not about salvation. It's about wisdom and how you live your life. And wisdom does produce prosperity. But prosperity doesn't always mean money. And it adds, it adds to your life. And first of all, let's remember, they really didn't have cancer back then. They might have, but more than likely, like all of the impure things that we have floating around, they didn't. But what it means is adding to your life. I mean, you can live a full life and only live 20 years.
It's the quality.
Yeah, if it's quality of life.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a quality, not quantity thing.
Okay.
And to me, I read that and I think about adding to your life as to mean eternal life as well, beyond your earthly life.
Yeah, I mean,
if you don't have that wisdom, you may not get to that.
Yeah. Certainly. So then we go to verse 13, and there's a bit of a shift in verse 13. 13 to 18. The foolish woman is loud. She is ignorant and knows nothing. She sits at the door of her house on a seat at the high places of the town. And I just hit the wrong button. Calling to those who pass by, who are going straight on their way. You who are simple, turn in here. And to those without sense, she says, stolen water is sweet and bread eaten in secret is pleasant. But they do not know that the dead are there, that her guests are in the depths of Sheol. Read through that and we will discuss it.
That carry. That carry.
Yeah.
All right. So what message does that teach us?
If you follow those directions there, you aren't too wise.
Well, and when you do very foolish things, it is very possible that you have shortened your life because you can then be doing something that is dangerous and actually shortens the life you would have had you not done those things.
Yeah. This chapter paints a picture of two parties. There's two parties going on.
Mm-hmm.
Two ladies are throwing parties.
Mm-hmm.
You got Wisdom throwing a party, and she sends her girls out onto the high places and says, y'all come on, eat here, the wine, the bread, and they bring life. And then you got another woman inviting people to a party. Now, it's interesting. She doesn't send out her girls. She does it herself. She goes and pulls people in and says, come on, this stolen water, it's not even wine, it's water, that may make us rethink serving water at communion. I don't know. But ours isn't stolen. I'm pretty sure we pay the bill. Stolen water is sweet, and bread eaten in secret is pleasant. And so, and I guess that things done in secret are things that we're embarrassed about or things that we shouldn't be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so what they don't know when they enter that house is that's where the dead are.
Right.
And they'll be eaten in Sheol. And so the summation in chapter 9, the conclusion of the first 9 chapters of Proverbs is this: wisdom brings life and foolishness brings death.
Mm-hmm.
We have a choice between wisdom and folly. This is not salvation. Again, this is not salvation. We don't choose salvation. God has chosen salvation for us. Wisdom, however, is a choice that we make. We choose wisdom or we choose foolishness.
Multiple times a day.
Multiple times a day. Wisdom brings life. Foolishness brings death. And that is the conclusion of everything we've heard thus far. That's, hopefully now the students of Proverbs are on the edge of their seat thinking, okay, now teach me to be wise.
Yeah.
I don't want that.
Right.
Teach me to be wise. And so that's what the first 9 chapters aim to do, is to get those students to say, okay, now teach me wisdom, please. I don't want that. I want this. It's like it's the end of a Christmas, Ebenezer Scrooge, Christmas Carol. It's the end of A Christmas Carol. It's the end of It's a Wonderful Life. It's please. I don't want that. I want this.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we have. We have a choice: wisdom or foolishness, life or death. And there it is.
Mm-hmm.
All right, folks. And unless y'all have any more questions, comments, or complaints, we will be right back here next Tuesday at the same bat time at the same bat channel.
Gotcha.
All right. Y'all take care.
Yeah.
Thank
Y'all
you.
too. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.